For centuries, when you thought of the Pope, you thought of one city, Rome, the eternal city, the seat of St. Peter, the heart of Western Christendom. But what if I told you that for nearly 70 years, the center of the Catholic world wasn't in Italy at all? It was in France, in a city that became a symbol of incredible power, but also deep controversy. This is the story of when the papacy left Rome. Our story kicks off in the early 1300s, a time when kings were getting stronger and weren't so keen on taking orders from the Pope. The French king, Philip the Fair, was locked in a brutal power struggle with Pope Boniface VIII. Things got so heated that Philip's men actually attacked the Pope. After Boniface died, Philip used his influence to get a Frenchman, Bertrand de Goth, elected as the new Pope, Clement V, in 1305. Everyone expected Clement V to head to Rome for his coronation. But Rome at the time was a mess, violent, unstable, and full of warring families. Pressured by the French king and wary of the chaos in Italy, Clement made a decision that would change history. He was crowned in Lyon, France, and in 1309, he moved the entire papal government to the peaceful city of Avignon. What was probably meant to be a temporary fix ended up lasting for almost 7 decades. This era became known as the Babylonian Captivity of the Papacy. The great Italian scholar Petrarch coined the term, and he wasn't being complimentary. He and many others felt the papacy had abandoned its sacred home and become a puppet for the French crown. It's not hard to see why they thought that. All 7 popes who ruled from Avignon were French, and so were most of the cardinals they appointed. This French takeover stirred up a lot of resentment across Europe, especially in places like England and the Holy Roman Empire, who were often enemies of France. But it's not just a simple story of French control. In many ways, the papacy thrived in Avignon. The popes built the magnificent Palais des Papes, the Palace of the Popes, a massive fortress that shouted power and authority. From this new base, they created one of the most efficient and sophisticated governments in all of Europe. They centralized church administration, expanded missionary work into Asia, and played a huge role in European politics, often trying to broker peace between warring nations. However, all this efficiency and power came with a hefty price tag, and it wasn't just financial. The papal court in Avignon gained a reputation for extreme luxury and wealth. To fund this lifestyle and their massive bureaucracy, they perfected a system of taxation and began selling indulgences on a grand scale. To many people, the popes in Avignon looked less like spiritual shepherds and more like worldly kings focused on money and power. This image of corruption and materialism badly tarnished the papacy's reputation. Throughout these decades, the call for the Pope to return to Rome never faded. 2 of the loudest voices belonged to 2 incredible women, Bridget of Sweden, and most famously, Catherine of Siena. Catherine was a mystic, but she was also a political powerhouse. In 1376, she traveled all the way to Avignon to confront Pope Gregory XIV. In a series of bold, passionate letters, she begged him to be a man of courage and return to his rightful place at the tomb of St. Peter, warning him that the church was falling apart without him. Her words, along with the worsening political situation in Italy, finally convinced him. On September 13, 1376, Pope Gregory XIV left Avignon. After a long and difficult journey, he made a triumphant entry into Rome in January 1377. The Avignon Papacy was officially over. But if you're hoping for a happy ending, you're about to be disappointed. The return to Rome didn't heal the church. When Gregory died just a year later, the next papal election was a disaster. The people of Rome surrounded the conclave, screaming for an Italian pope, terrified that another Frenchman would just move back to Avignon. The cardinals gave in and elected an Italian. But soon after, they declared the election invalid because they'd been threatened. So they elected a second pope, who went right back and set up his court in Avignon. The Babylonian Captivity had ended, only to trigger an even worse crisis, the Great Western Schism, which would see 2, and sometimes even 3, men all claiming to be the one true pope. The Avignon Papacy was a pivotal era. It was a time of incredible administrative growth, but also of political scandal and a damaged spiritual reputation. It was a 67-year exile that ultimately proved that while you could move the Pope's office, You couldn't move the church's spiritual heart from Rome. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. See you next time.